And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 147 of the Fans of Power podcast. I'm Tyler Baker, and to quote the Deep G.I. Joe series, got to get tough because there's no Joe. No Joe Amato on this week's episode of Fans of Power. He has some family obligations to tend to. So our producer, Mr. Kennedy, has graciously given up his time to fill those massive big boots of Mr. Amato's there, and hopefully won't fall flat on his face.
Hey, yeah, I feel like I'm already feeling the pressure of big shoes, big shoes.
Yes, but nevertheless, we still have a lot of He-Man stuff to bring to you tonight. I think we can still deliver on Joe's absence as well. We've got a fun 2000X discussion to get into, commentary for Ray of Disappearance, and we'll do some fan questions like we always do. And I guess before we get going here, we've got a couple of current events that have popped up concerning He-Man or He-Man related stuff. The Funko horror figures have started popping up in GameStop. So if you're anxiously awaiting a He-Man style Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Pinhead, Leatherface, just go to your local GameStop. I haven't been to ours yet. I don't know if ours has got them in yet, but
I went in there yesterday and they weren't. I not that I could see. Maybe I missed them, but they weren't there. I have mine ordered from Amazon, so they're going to be here on Friday. Joe, as many of you know, posted on Facebook that he did get 2 of them. He sent me a message yesterday. I was like, oh, yeah, check this out. I think that the family member that he's helping out this weekend, that was actually like as a thank you, picked those up for him. I don't know how much he paid. He didn't tell me the price. I'm hearing $10. I'm hearing $9.99 for them at GameStop. I don't know if they'll turn up at Target either, because the Target with the at least with the NECA stuff, it's been kind of lackluster. I hope that gets better over time. But
I'd imagine probably Target was probably like not expecting the attention that they got, because our Target got blasted. So they probably weren't expecting it to be as popular as it clearly was.
Well, I've been to various Target stores. Even when I went up to New York last week, I went into one and it's the same layout everywhere, like the same couple peg spaces designated for basically the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street Ultimate figures. I hope that they kind of branch out. We start to get some Pennywise and what have you. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not getting my hopes up for it, which it makes it worse that Toys R Us is gone, because at least they had that variety. Even if I would walk in and never exactly found anything great, each time I went, at least the variety of the NECA products was there, and it's just sort of sorely lacking at Target.
Yeah, looks like we're pretty much going to have to stick to online dealers to get our fix for a lot of our stuff in general. Of course, I'm kind of used to that anyway. But on top of those being released as well, Mattel has announced their film division. They have,
you seemed pretty excited about that earlier today.
Yeah. And when he says excited, he means like,
oh yeah, that was total sarcasm.
Yeah. They've announced the film division to, obviously make films targeted or based on their properties, from Barbie to He-Man to.
Well, here's the thing: are they mainly aiming for theatrical stuff, or are we talking this is going to all across the board? We're going to get theatrical stuff. Are they going to start doing like direct to DVD things? Like what is the plan?
I don't know. Mattel's already done like the whole like straight to video Barbie stuff, because you can't help but see it when you would pass through like video aisles of Walmart, and Target,
but
and Best Buy.
Were they not going through another company to do that? And if this is their own thing, or I don't know how that works exactly.
I don't know. I honestly, when I saw the articles pop up, like Axel posted it and a few other people posted it, and I just kind of felt like, I don't want making movies. I kind of feel like that's not, obviously Sony has dropped the ball, as we all knew that they would. Unfortunately, I wish they dropped the ball on a bunch of other things, so that way they wouldn't get made and let someone else competent make them.
Oh, well, yeah.
But at least He-Man is safe from the clutches of Sony. At least it appears to. But then again, too, I didn't read the article, so I may have completely be misreading and misinterpreting. But with I guess with this announcement, they've got a producer with credentials, but doesn't necessarily mean that means that there's hope for a good He-Man movie. So I just disregard any He-Man news in the slightest because none of it's been in depth or full of okay. This sounds competent. This sounds reasonable. This sounds logical. This sounds real. This sounds like it actually happened. None of it has sounded like it means it's any step closer to an actual He-Man movie. So I'm sure some people are like, hopeful and doing the whole, hey guys, did you hear? There's a new He-Man movie coming. I'm like, how long have you been outside the bubble? It's just,
well, I mean, obviously, Masters, very strong fan base, but also a very, I would say, would you agree to this? A niche fan base, right? So I feel like the general audience like hears that and they're like, oh man, like they don't know that the classic line has been out for X amount of years now. They probably don't even know that there was a series in the early 2000s and a figure line that came out. All they think is, oh, He-Man. Yes, I remember that from that time period. Which
yeah, because the hardcore fan base it's a dying breed. There's more casual fans of He-Man than there are hardcore. Because if there are hardcore, I want people to come out and show how hardcore they are. I don't want it to just be, casual posts or hey, look, I got a picture of this. I'm a He-Man. I'm like that's fine, but the hardcore fans like it needs to be more rabid, and I think others kind of feel that way as well. I mean, PowerCon's a clear sign that there is a big fan base of He-Man.
Now, was there like an estimated head count of that? How many people were there all throughout the weekend? Is there a total anywhere? Is that a thing that they post at all, like afterwards? Like, we had 50,000 people over the course of this weekend.
An exact number? No, I don't know. I just know that it was the biggest PowerCon they've done, and they've done some big ones. I mean, because many years ago, where they combined Thundercats and Turtles along with He-Man and She-Ra. And they had playmates. They had, representing Turtles there. Thundercat, people who worked on Thundercats were there, plus He-Man and She-Ra. So, I mean, to me, I felt like that was tremendous. And I feel like they had many, many big ones. But for them to say that this one was the biggest one they had done so far, I mean, to me, that's saying something. Because PowerCon's been going on for quite a while. So it's nice to know that the fan base, is heavily represented. I'm sure Mattel sees that. Super 7 knows that.
I'm sure it's honestly kind of in due part to the hardcore fan base. You guys are doing what you can to spread the word, and it's starting to catch on with everybody else.
Yeah, it's but it's tough when there's no media out. I think all the hardcore fans know it's hard to get people excited about something that the toys come so few and far between. There's not a whole lot of announcements. 7 can only do so much, throughout the year. With no new movie, no TV show, no reputable comic book, because oddly enough, I don't hear anybody really praising the hell out of the maybe it hadn't come out yet of the DC He-Man crossover that's going on right now. I'm not hearing a whole lot of stuff other than people said the first issue is okay, but there's just not a whole lot to keep people's appetites wet and keep them coming back to going to He-Man.org frequently. You're checking out. You go to Facebook pages all the time. You see people posting pictures of the latest figure they got, or this and this and this. So it seems to be like there's an interest on a daily basis. But
I think the Facebook thing is kind of weird because they've messed with the algorithms in it so much that there are times, Tyler, when 2 weeks will go by and I'll see a post that you made weeks ago to a certain page. I'm like, why is this showing up now? I don't understand. It's really, really weird. I think unless most people are going to those pages themselves and going through the post, which I feel like most people don't. I feel like they're just on their phone just looking through their news feed. That's it. It's really messed up because I'm kind of just seeing the same 7 or 8 people posting. And I'm like, well, I'm friends with a lot more people than this. Why am I just seeing these same few? And they've finagled it that way to where that's all you're going to see. So,
well, plus too, that's the only outlet I use to getting the word across is through Facebook, because I don't use Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. And
yeah, we got to get you on those Twitter machines, man, and those Instagrams.
Well, it's kind of plus that building up that's starting from the ground up, man. That just seems so kind of intimidating to like try and gather a following through that this late in the game. But
right.
I would need somebody to kind of help push me in that direction. Because Joe's got a Twitter, but I think he even says he doesn't go on there as much to promote the podcast and things like that. But
sense.
But Tellus announced that, so to me, there's nothing to get excited about. Just more what if news. I don't think it's really generating steam, really.
So between that and the variants and all that stuff, I mean, you don't seem that stoked about anything that's going on right now. I know that's got to bum you out. What would it take to kind of get you excited? Would it be you're finally getting some tread on the movie and the casting is right? What would be the next? What's the one thing right now that would really get you excited? Well, while you're thinking about that, I'll go ahead and say hello to JSP, Febmon, Zentron, Motu Fan 1. Did I miss anybody? Adam Gabbert just popped in. Hello. I think that is all of them thus far. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Half an hour. I figured there's going to be an influx about 9 o'clock. People are going to jump in and be like, "What the? They're already going? Where's Joe?" I'm like, "Oh no."
Just to reiterate, Joe is taking care of family business, so don't fret. Joe will be back next week if you are banking on Joe's presence.
This isn't good enough.
Well, I'd like to think that look, I've been doing this.
Well, if this episode doesn't do well, I'm just gonna say right now, it is my fault. I apologize.
No. We've done plenty of episodes too. We did one episode right before Christmas, about 2 years ago, and right before we had James E talk on for the first time, where we talked about the commercials and did a discussion of Whiplash. That was a complete flop because we were trying to squeeze in I think one more extra episode before Christmas break before we had James on, and it was a dud. It just didn't do anything, and we've had a couple like that. And me and Joe are both on there talking about good stuff, and for whatever reason we can't quit. I mean, there are topics that we think, oh my God, this would be great. We'll have a lot of views, a lot of downloads. It's crickets. And then we're like the Rock Wars, man. People bitch and complain. They ain't part of He-Man. It becomes a pretty highly viewed episode. There's no algorithm to figure out what people are going to gravitate and decide they're going to devote an hour and a half of their time to watch YouTube of me and Joe or you and I tonight. There's no way to figure it out. We have no idea what fans are more interested in listening to us discuss, from the cartoon to movie discussions to toys. We don't know. We don't get we get a lot of positive feedback. We don't get people like, hey, how come you guys ever talk about more 2000X variants? Well, don't worry, you'll get your wish tonight. Or whatever. So it's just kind of one of the things that it's always a gamble. We have no idea. Like guests, we think certain guests will this would be great, and sometimes it's good, but not as much as we expected. Maybe that's our fault, But the good thing about this podcast is that it has legs. Is that every episode, even the ones that didn't do as well, have gradually gotten more views. I'm sure the downloads have gotten better over time. Some people just don't have time to listen to us right away, or sometimes within the first week. And I say that's what makes this podcast so great. Is we got a back catalog of undated topics, other than discussing current events at the time, discussing Fisto or Ninjutsu and Skeletor, or doing commentaries for Quest for the Sword and so on and so forth. Don't date the podcast. So
right.
We got a large library of stuff for people to go back through, and that's what I'm at least proud of. It may not be big at first, but you go back and certain episodes are like, it's just a shame that some of the ones that we've done that are toy based are some of the more highly viewed ones, like when we had Brian Flynn on, or when we discussed reveals that from 2 years ago in February was big. It's almost feeling like sometimes more of the toy based stuff does better, but it's hard to say. But Another current event is if you are one of those people that wanted a Leech mini comic and missed out, I've got another shipment of Leech mini comics here that Carson has provided for me. And to prove that it's a second printing, there is a teaser of the next mini comic in the center.
Oh,
I'm holding it up here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
keep like jumping in while you're talking, but no, that's really cool.
Yeah, so it flips upside down, and it's if you're listening to us, not watching it, it's at the center of the mini comic is the teaser for the next one that Carson is writing right now, or drawing, excuse me, Clamp Champ versus Ninjor, which he sent me a few more pages of. It looks just like what I had written. You know, it looks very, very good, very, very entertaining. So I'm going to be doing giveaways for these on the podcast. I'm trying to figure out what to do. These will not have to be purchased. These will be given away. I will pay for the shipping. So if you want a copy, plus all these copies come with a little Leech card for you to put on display.
Man, those guys that got that first run of the comic are really missing out now.
Well,
get the teaser in this one. You get a card.
Well, the card did come with the copies that were purchased. First run.
Gotcha.
But if you got a freebie, there was no card. Like the cards only went to people that purchased it. However, this run comes with cards. It's a nice little bonus, and you got the nice, beautiful insert of Clamp Champ and Ninjor in this one. So I got to figure out whether to do some trivia questions or come up with something to start doing some giveaways for this. If you have not got a copy, you know someone who would like to have one, you got another opportunity, thankfully. So I want to give an update on that.
How many of those did you get this time around?
God. Well, I got to mail out a copy to someone who purchased it and did not receive it tomorrow, so that eliminates one copy. I got to keep a copy for myself because I had to give away my own personal copy a while back. So as of right now, because I haven't opened up all of them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 more copies to give away.
Okay.
So there will be 8 more winners. I'll figure out what to do. Something, of course, maybe a question. Maybe you have to send a nice essay on why the 87 movie means a great deal to you. Or something like that. You know, we'll come up with something that just to get these out, because it's just about spreading the word, because we want to make sure that there's a demand for the next issue and more to come after that. You know, because Carson's busting his ass to do all this out of his own pocket. And, you know, it's nice to be able to make sure we get something in return for him to help pay for the pages and the, you know, just the effort alone. So thank you, Carson, for sending those in. And there's new images that look great of the fight scenes and things like that.
I think I know what you can do.
What's that?
Instead of doing like the questions and everything, what if every week we would take an inventory of everyone that joined us in the chat live, and then wrote them all down, and then the following week, you know, like put them in a hat and do a drawing. And since we have the same guys a lot of the times joining us live week after week, like their name would be taken out after each one. I don't know. Maybe not.
A drawing would actually, we could do that. That's not a bad. We could do that one week. Is to everybody that shows up, like for next week. We'll go ahead and do that for next week. Then that's a good idea. Everyone that shows up in the chat room next week, if you have not received a Leech mini comic, show up in the chat room. You don't have to pay anything or anything like that. It's strictly just showing up and devoting your time to hanging out with us. We'll put your name in We'll have Nathan or his girlfriend or somebody do the drawing for us.
I'll make sure she's wearing her dinosaur dress and her hair is all fancy. And then I was gonna say too. And then like the following week, what you can do is we can do a thing where there's a code word or something, or have them leave comments below on something, like what is your favorite whatever, and then you between you and Joe, you guys can pick like, well, this was my favorite comment or response, or well, I don't know. I think you should change it up every couple weeks, like one week.
I like that. It keeps people on their toes. It's not doing the same thing. It's not answering trivia questions. It's yeah, we'll do the drawing next week. I like the idea of posting a comment of some kind which encourage people to post comments on the YouTube video. Yeah, I like that.
And then maybe at some point on your own Facebook page, or maybe even get Joe to do it. Just have Joe post a thing of like, hey, here's this Leech mini comic. Leave comment down below with your favorite whatever on his Facebook page. And then you guys can sort of pick from that too. Just change it up week after week. And I mean, you got 8 of them. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be
8 copies to give away. So I think that's a great idea. I like all those ideas. Well, definitely. See, there was an absolute positive to having you on here.
That's it. It's all downhill from here.
Well, I guess we're going to jump into our first discussion, which is the 2000 next toy chase that I think a lot of us were quite familiar with. And for those of you who jumped in late, well, this is kind of us sharing our Indiana Jones style story of hunting down this toy line back when it was a regular toy line. But before we get into that, anybody in the chat room, if you got questions you want us to discuss or address before we do commentary tonight, throw them in the chat room. Let Nasty Nate check them out, and we'll read some of those before we do commentary. But it gives you plenty of time to think about something if you want us to address a topic of discussion. Doesn't have to be questioned. Just say, hey, talk about this for a moment, or talk about that, or whatever. So spitball whatever you want there.
Yeah, if you want Tyler to go ahead and get like the loose measurement ruler, and he can flex his arm and measure, and we'll see like how many inches the pythons are. Are they bigger than Hulk Hogan's? Could be.
I'm trying to get to that point there too, where I can just say the 24-inch pythons, and I have.
Wait, all right. So you already know. I feel like you've done this.
No. Actually, I have not actually measured my arms in almost a decade.
No.
Yeah, that was.
See, I figured you would have done this within the last year.
I've never gotten big into the whole numbers thing. Like, even when people ask me how much can you bench, I'm like, I don't. It's not something I keep registered. Like, I just kind of let the look itself try and sell it. If people want to say, hey, I bet the guy can bench 400, well, then you can think that. Or I bet he's got 24-inch arms. Like, well, you can think that. I just assume let people kind of come up with their own ideas.
In that picture with you and Hulk Hogan from the convention, you guys are roughly about the same size.
Yeah, Hogan was a bit taller than me, but
I'm just saying in bulk there.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
It's got to be kind of close. And I'm sure he said something to you. It was, oh, brother, look at your arms, brother.
He didn't say that, but he did compliment, my look, and because me and Gene Oakland was sitting in the same room. Say, hey, Gene, look at this guy.
Yeah, he was like, I saw him in the bathroom. That's where you ran into Mean Gene, was in the bathroom of all places.
Yeah, because a guy thought I looked like Brad Armstrong. So therefore, because I was nice to him about it, he overheard the fact that I missed seeing Mean Gene and handled it. Hey, Mean Gene Oakland just walked in the bathroom over there. I'm like, oh my God. So he left my stuff with Erica and ran to the bathroom, and sure enough, there's Mean Gene at the urinal. So I'm waiting for my turn. He turned and goes, hey, bud, good to see you again. It's me, Gene Oakland, talking to me as if he knows me. So I just went along with it.
And this has happened more than once. With any time you've met wrestlers or managers in that field, all those guys, they just talk to you like you're one of the boys, and they've seen you somewhere somehow, and it doesn't make any sense.
Why not just roll with it, man? I mean, I probably could have walked into a locker room back in 1988. Hey, I'm one of the boys, man. I got blueberry steroids too.
Yeah, so, but you were just ingesting yours. They were injecting all of theirs.
That's true. Yeah, I am all natural. But yeah, I've never, I just don't have a tape measure to do something like that, and I justify. I don't know. I just never.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. I want to know now.
Okay, well then we'll do it for your benefit. We may have to.
I'm gonna say 23 and a half.
23 and a half. Well, I like that number. Like that way, when I cut promos, I said the 23 and a half inch pythons. Just right below the immortal Hulk Hogan. So anyway,
we'll just watch the viewer count just gradually. It's like this isn't.
It's like all right.
Dog.
Yeah, we're going down a dark path right now. So, but the 2000X toy line is something that I think has left a bad taste in a lot of our mouths, but also some good memories as well.
Well, let's dig into that for a second, because as we know, I'm not a regular on this show, and I will fully admit I would say I am just like slightly above casual He-Man fan, just a little bit, just a smidge. But what's the bad taste here exactly? Is it from the cartoon mainly, or is it how the toy line was handled?
The toy line, I think, mainly. There's more pros to the cartoon than the toy line, because the toy line had some great looking toys, but it's Mattel pushing that damn variant concept where they feel like all anyone's going to want to buy are variants of He-Man and Skeletor, and they're not really going to be interested in buying a Triclops, a Cyclone, a Tila, a Elan, a Mechanic, an Orko, and because of every fan, that has become the consensus. No matter who you talk to, no matter what podcast you listen to, they all had the same thing to say: is that, Smash Blade He-Man, Spin Blade Skeletor were clogging the shelves for long periods of time at KB Toys and Targets and Kmart's and Walmart's, and it's been said that the people at Mattel at the time had put a lot of money into advertising and getting the line up and running. But I mean, in comparison to what we saw in the 80s, I mean, it's a different time, of course. Things cost different back then, but you felt like the marketing campaign and getting the word out about He-Man just didn't feel as magical and as monumental. Walmart had like a section in the store with a banner that said Master of the Universe, kind of advertising down the toilet, hey, this is where you get the He-Man toys. You'd find bedspread comforters and candy dispensers and stuff like that, but they just didn't have that kind of they always used a lot of generic imaging and stuff like that. But the thing that really was what killed it was the toy line, because the toy line to case ratios, we all know it's been talked about to death. That's all anybody could find. And you and I can be a testament to that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once we really start digging into those adventures, and we still talk about it all the time, just the ratios were terrible. How many times would we go into a store? I remember just being so happy that one time I went with my parents kind of out of town a few miles away, and we went into a Walmart, and I go in there and I found a Mechanic, and I was just like, holy shit, finally something that's not a variant. It really reached a point where it was awful. And it also, not that I minded them too much, but when they also did the variant, like the repaints,
chase variants, yeah,
yes, those were kind of clogging up the shelves too, because no one wanted a merman that, my memory is terrible, but I just remember the colors on him and just like, no, pass, hard pass.
Yeah, well, of course, my whole mindset was I didn't want to miss out on what I missed out on a lot of in the 80s, so I was going to buy everything from the crummy variants. And
I remember that. Not only that,
yeah,
but you were buying, in some cases, 2 of each, because you kept one in the packaging and you took one out as well. So, man, they got a lot of your money.
They did. And the same thing with the vehicles. Like I bought some of them to keep in box and some of them to take out of the box. But all the figures, from ones that came with videos to the ones that didn't come with videos, all the variants, all the chase figures, most of them I at least bought one to keep in. Some of them I did take out. But, I mean, all the variants like Smash Blade, Jungle Attack He-Man, to Battle Armor Skeletor, or Battle Sound Skeletor, Battle Sound He-Man, those really lame-ass, Battle Armor versions that were featured in of Men and Machines, to like the color variants of Ram Man and Merman, Orko. I bought them all because it just felt like I'm not going to miss out on what I missed out on in the 80s. Like, I want the opportunity to buy everything I can get my hands on. So I would got one in package, and I can look back at it and like, I was there. And, it was a sad day when we found out the line was canceled and the Snakeman type figures were released in Europe and certain parts of the U.S. and were very hard to find. You had to go online and order them. They looked terrible. It was just more variants, and the actual Snakeman figures too were done by a different group, not by the Horsemen. They looked terrible. But but it was a blast to be on the hunt for them. For I think it was July of 2002, because the cartoon came out in August 2002. That's when the hunt began, and I do remember because I had this by accident. The first two figures I got of the He-Man Toyline and the Apes was He-Man and Skeletor. The first two figures I got from New Adventures was a 2-pack of He-Man and Skeletor. The commemorative toy line that Mattel released in 2001, I think, or 2000, was He-Man and Skeletor. So I was determined to keep up that the first figures I purchased was He-Man and Skeletor. However, they were only releasing He-Man, Man-at-Arms Stratos, and Battle Cat in the first wave initially, and then Skeletor, Merman, and Beastman are coming a little bit later. But I went on eBay and made sure I bought He-Man and Skeletor at the exact same time. I paid more money for them, but I was determined I was going to keep up this tradition of He-Man and Skeletor. And of course, it died when the classics came out, and you had to wait, Beastman 1 month, and then next month was He-Man, then the next month was Skeletor. So I couldn't keep up that tradition, but eBay got a lot of my money that year as well, because like Merman hadn't come out yet, so I would pay like $30 for Merman on eBay.
So impatient.
God, just because I had to have him, because at that time Merman was the harder one to find of the Evil Warriors when they had come out, and I was determined to make sure I got him, and I got my brother in on the fix. Nathan got in on it, and we spent.
Well, let's kind of go back to that. So, 2002 is when it started. We had just graduated high school, and Tyler used to come and stay at my parents' house all the time. He'd come when we would play. What was it?
Turtles in Time, Crazy Taxi, Final Fight,
SmackDown
a lot. God, we play SmackDown a lot.
And I think around what I get nostalgic about is at this time, the entire series of the original show wasn't on DVD or anything yet. And Tyler had this massive collection of just recorded, all of them were together, but on VHS. And how many tapes were there all together?
I think it was nine tapes total of all the episodes, plus commercials of the toys. And they were put in pretty much chronological order, not just the toys, but like the bubblegum commercial, because I remember I had that on a VHS tape and had it transferred to DVD for Joe. But yeah, it was nine VHS tapes. Of the VHS tapes that I have here were transferred to this set, and there was a lady that was selling. I found it in a Toy Shop magazine that she was advertising like complete sets of He-Man, Thundercats, and everything else. And you went to her website. I didn't have internet at the time, so I had to use somebody else's internet to get printed off a listing of all the episodes she had available. So my dad graciously bought me the entire set of He-Man. I had to send this lady a money order and had no idea when it would show up. And it showed up in the summer before senior year of high school. And I spent that summer watching those tapes. Even like 4th of July, I remember like, fireworks need to hurt me over, so I can go home and watch, the rest of my He-Man cartoons. So I can watch. I forgot what episode it was. It was the episode with the Tycons in it, where the Tycons are eating all the food. God, I'm drawing a blank here. Damn it. Anyway, The Good Shall Survive. I think that's what it is, from season 2. But anyway, yeah, that's the set. And I let Nathan borrow it so he could transfer all the episodes.
Yeah,
to VHS.
Man. So you got to think about what's going on with this technology. He would come over. I would get 2 VCRs. I would put his tapes in one. I would put a blank tape in the other one and just record off of that. And it had to sit and play through the whole tape. See, kids don't understand that these days.
Yeah.
Man, so many weekends of copying that, because each tape had about 6 hours worth of stuff on it. Because I think you could extend them out that long. It was either 4 to 6 hours. I can't remember, but
yeah, I think there were 6-hour tapes, because I remember they came in the blue Sony sleeves, and I think they all said 6 hours on those. So there were 6 hours worth of He-Man cartoons on each tape.
Man, and
yeah,
sometimes we would do two of the tapes when you would stay that night, and it's just
it
was like all up here playing games, and now I'd run downstairs and check and make sure everything was still going good, like the VCR didn't eat your tape or something. Because I remember you were really, really worried about something happening to your tapes, and then come to find out a year or two later, the DVDs got announced, and we're just like, well, okay.
Yeah, because it was just, it really, I mean, that was, you know, I'm sure for some people too who either are relatively new to getting back into the fandom, stuff like that. I mean, the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was just no like the commemorative line, that was a big deal when that was announced, and there was no announcement of DVD, so it was still renting VHS tapes at Blockbuster, whatever they had, and then they eventually got rid of all of them. And if you didn't buy them as used tapes, you didn't get them anymore. So getting this collection of tapes was a big deal. So I got that in Thundercats, and you know, so I had both sets of Thundercats and He-Man before DVD on VHS tapes from recordings from the original TV broadcast and VHS tapes that were released on RCA Home Video. Thundercats was recorded from Cartoon Network airings and VHS, maybe VHS tapes possibly, but most of them were from Cartoon Network and things like that. But yeah, it kind of started from there, and then Nathan got in on the action on the 2000X line. Probably, I think when the second wave, like that included Jungle Attack He-Man, had come out, I think it's when Nathan decided to kind of get in on the mix.
Yeah, I was intrigued by it, and then, you know, went into my local Walmart and saw He-Man and Skeletor. I want to say Stratos was hanging out there too. So I went ahead
No pun
and
intended.
yeah, and I got those guys, and then, you know, it just sort of started. Tyler and I had been going out every weekend anyway, just to see what we could find, DVDs, whatever. We go to Best Buy, Target, the mall, just all the places. Like what toy, and toy stores were still around at this time as well. So
yeah, KB
we would
Toys.
we were just checking everywhere for anything. It's like, oh, all right. So once those came out, and then for a brief period of time when Ninja Turtles came back, and those were showing up in stores, that was a lot of fun. I would say that was probably the last time I was really excited about going out and toy hunting, because now it doesn't matter. You just buy everything online. But back then, you know, the online marketplace isn't what it was or is now. Rather, it was totally different.
Well, it was a good time with Marvel Legends, you know, kicking off pretty strong at the time, the 2000X line, and then that 2000X, I'll just call it Turtles. So to have all that, you know, on top of, you know, I think Hasbro had been doing, Hasbro at the time had done a brand new G.I. Joe line in 2-packs. So on top of that as well, so 2002, 2003, when He-Man, Turtles, and G.I. Joe are all back on the toy shelves, Marvel Legends has been, you know, produced by Toy Biz. It was a fun time, and I know a lot of people listening to this probably know what we're talking about. That was a really, really great time, at least in terms of excitement. And, you know, looking back on, I mean, some of the toys, no, I could care less about that turtle, even though the toys look great, the cartoon, But, you know, 2000X, fun memories. You know, I don't display the toy line. And that G.I. Joe line kicked ass. I bought that toy line for a long time.
Why are you not displaying any of those? I know you probably talked about it before on the show, but just...
well, for one thing, room. But also, I just don't... I don't have that kind of excitement for it. You know, I love my new adventures. And the vintage and classics, to me, that's what it's all about. If I had more room, you know, I got my one shelf here that's more of the classic variants, and then thrown in Thundercats and Silverhawks and Bionic 6 and various stuff here over the shelf. I got G.I. Joe over here. But space-wise, I just don't have that kind of excitement towards it. That's just the best way I can describe it. You know, I still like to watch the cartoon periodically, and it's fun thinking about the toys and getting excited about getting Cyclone finally, or, you know, getting Evelyn and things like that. But it's just not something I really care to display. I mean, of course, when they were, you know, for quite a while, I displayed that toy line prominently. Like had display setup of all the heroic warriors, all the evil warriors, not masters. Displayed all my vehicles, box, and I had at one point, and Nathan probably remembers this too, when I lived over in Fairlawn, I had the entire top room of this house me and my dad were living in. Like it was one big room. It was the size of the house. That's how big the room was. And I had walls just filled up with the carded 2000X figures, every figure you can imagine. All my magazine posters from all the Earl Norm paintings, all in frames. The storybooks, all in frames. The comic books, all in frames. The mini comics, all in frames. The movie poster, all in frames. The Ken Kelly poster, in a frame. 8x10 photos of the movie, in frames. Like
it was quite impressive. That I feel like that was the only time you really just had everything out. Before it was always space issues, and you couldn't put it. But here it was just everything. So it's just you walking into a museum of masters. Yeah, it was an impressive collection. I would put it toe to toe with a lot of collections that I'm sure most of these guys here in the chat have seen on the internet.
Yeah, people that got a lot of money, but they invest a lot of like glass cases and acrylic cases and things like that, and can really, build up their setup and make it look very prestigious and professional looking. I don't have that kind of means, and my apartment only allows me to display it so much, and I'm happy with what I've got here. And
you're just gonna have to get a bigger place. Maybe. Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, I mean, because I've done it a couple times, but I can't imagine all that stuff behind you just having to pack all of that up.
Yeah, oof. I'm not looking forward to the idea of putting each individual figure in a baggie with their weapons, put it in boxes, getting it someplace, and yeah, plus I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at right now too. So it's not on my priority list because I'm happy with how I got on display, and I'll change it up at some point when more artwork shows up from Axel and Kevin, and things like that, or I get something else like, oh man, I had to put that on display. I'll change it up here and there, but for right now I'm content. But it was nice to at least one point being able to display every single item of He-Man I ever owned all in the same room and just sit and look. And then I'd use my mom's house to display all my movie stuff. All my movie posters were on display over there, like Predator and Jaws and stuff like that. And use my dad's house to display He-Man, so it was great. It's a good time back then. Being a collector. But,
are there any stories specifically? Because you're the one with the still trap memory here. The only one I can think of in particular is the time that we went hunting and we went into Kmart and we found the accessories pack, and you were like really, really excited about it, and I was just like, I can't get it. And it was like $10 too. I was like, no,
it was the flight packs. Yeah, the accessory flight packs, the Bat Pack and the Eagle flight pack, that were released. I think the Bat Pack was only featured like in maybe one or two scenes in the 2000X cartoon, and that was it. But it was like new He-Man toys, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And Nathan goes, oh man, like the most sarcastic oh man you've ever heard, and that turned into one of our catchphrases that me and him share between us, that when we see something we don't care for, we go, oh man, like really loud. And then it went from oh man to oh man. It was kind of like a D at the beginning there. So those Eagle flight packs kind of spawned some lingo that me and him still talk about to this day. But I do remember when I first found out that the toys were in stores. Like I went to Bissett Park with Matt Hilton and was wearing like this ragged clothing to go pretend to like play tennis. Like it just sounded like, hey, we'll go down there and just hit the tennis ball around. Sounded like a fun thing to do. And Matt was like, hey, those new He-Man toys, right? Like, yeah, I can't wait. You're like, oh, they're at Walmart. What? So I threw him and my brother in the car and ran to Walmart, and I just forked over the cash. I grabbed He-Man, I grabbed Man-at-Arms, I got Battle Cat, I got He-Man, just the Stratos, and just grab them all together. And at that time, I remember being worried that like some girl I went to high school with would see me walk around with toys.
Of course you would.
Yeah. And it took me a little while of my late teens and early 20s to grow out of like worried about seeing women like, oh God, he's buying a toy.
Yeah, no, I remember that. We would be in the store and you would find something, you would almost just kind of like hide it a little bit. Yeah, and I'm like, there's probably some guy in the back watching the cameras thinking you're trying to steal that now.
Probably, but
God,
you didn't say that at the time. You just like, okay, we'll go to the garden center and check out because no hot girls are going to go to the garden center.
so paranoid about like
I know.
me. I didn't care at all. I'm like, all right, yeah, fine. And that even happened to me. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember exactly who it was, but there was someone we went to high school with, and I was checking out, and they were giving me shit about it. I think they asked me, "Is that for you or like someone else?" And I was like, "Well, it's for me. I don't have any kids or anything." Why even do that? Why bother someone in this? Oh, what are you buying? Oh, what are you buying that for? I'm like, why?
That's what people do in our area, or people they like to be nosy. What the hell you're at? I'm in Walmart here to buy this, and I'm on my way to buy some maxi pads for my grandmother, or something like that. It's but however, I do remember like going into Walmart one time after Iron Man had come out and bought like a big, nice 12-inch Iron Man, and ran into Captain Dipshit Jordan Almerode, and just I'm like, God.
See, when you said Captain Dipshit, I'm like, that can be a variety of people.
It could be a lot of people. We're trying to watch the language in here, but
Yeah.
I just had to say that because I can't stand the guy. But anyway, he asked, "Who's that for?" And I said, "It's for my cousin." I didn't want to feel like explaining.
Yeah, you didn't want to catch any crap from him. I understand that.
Well, plus, I mean, Jordan's a little pint-sized, guy who had like a pubescent mustache and just was obnoxious, little redneck turd. And I just didn't want to. I didn't want to talk to the guy. He was trying to be like buddies. I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you. Then I ended up running into a girl that I ended up dating for a while that same day while I was holding it. It didn't bother her, turns out, but I couldn't get Jordan to, take a hike, idiot. I'm making time here. But turns out, having a toy in your hand, ended up getting a date with a hot chick.
Oh,
but that was my paranoia at that time, was worrying about, is some girl going to come over and judge you or worrying. I'm sure some people, I know Matt and Jordan or Matt Bishop would do the same thing too, because I'm like, yeah, I used to do the same thing too. When you go to Walmart and buy toys, got to go to the garden center. Ain't got to worry about people seeing the garden center. That's the mentality. You wouldn't get caught, buying toys if you went to the garden center at Walmart. But it was it was so exciting. I think even into the following summer for 2000X, because the commemorative line was still available in certain places, and when my dad was doing work up north, we would go up there with him. And I remember on our way back, we stopped at, I think, 2 different Toys R Us's or 2 different stores in a Toys R Us on our way out of DC, and got the commemorative Moss Man pack that I got over here, and the Pterodactyl, and I think the Battle Hawk. Like, I walked out of Toys R Us up near Fairfax with just this massive load of bags filled with He-Man stuff. And I'm just spending money that I got. I forgot. Maybe Dad bought some of that stuff for me. Because I remember that first summer, I was buying stuff on eBay from all my graduation money. So I spent the last bit of my graduation money to buy Castle Grayskull for the 2000X line. That was it. Like, the last purchase I made was to get Castle Grayskull. And then I was completely broke. It was the most money I ever had in my life. And I just spent it on He-Man stuff I found in the stores, eBay on He-Man stuff.
How much was Castle Grayskull when you picked it up? Do you remember?
A little over $50, I remember.
Man, that's not bad at all, actually.
Yeah,
see, I never
it was like,
yeah, I never picked it up. How much graduation money did you get, if you don't mind me asking?
It was over $1,000.
Wow. See, I didn't get that much. I think I got maybe about 500. But I was the same way.
1,000, yeah.
I was the same way. I bought so many movies from Best Buy with that graduation money. And I want to say too, that's when I was also buying all those posters from the poster guy in the mall.
Take it down.
Take your time. Got any questions?
Yeah. No one else knows what we're talking about. It's another inside
Well,
joke.
no, I mean that's all right. So in the mall, there's this guy set up. He's got tons of posters. It's mostly like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
Yeah.
But at one point, he did have a lot of horror-related stuff. So it was like I got Texas Chainsaw, Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm
Manhattan.
Yep. Nightmare on Elm Street. Man, the original Friday the 13th poster, all kinds of stuff. But as Tyler said, what you said he always was eating like a sandwich, and he was just like
He was a really cool guy, but the guy.
Oh yeah,
really,
he was a nice, sweet man, but
super nice guy. But at one point, in later years, he used to. I mean, he came over one time. He was eating like peanut butter because it was like gunked all over his teeth. And he came over with the same shtick of like, take time, got any questions? Just ask.
yeah,
Don't
no, yeah,
hesitate.
that was his thing. That was the whole. Even as a repeat customer, multiple times a week, every weekend, whatever, it was always the same thing. Not like, hey, how's it going? You're back. It was always the same exact. Take your time. Got any questions?
Yeah. And he had the same damn stock of like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Like, dude, can you get anything else in here besides Revenge of the Sith and the generic C-3PO R2D2 band poster? And oh look, it's Fellowship of the Ring. I have never seen that before. Just the same stuff over and over again. But
I mean, that is where you bought your Triple X poster, right?
no, I didn't buy that. That was Derek.
Sure.
I
There
didn't
goes.
buy that. I didn't buy that. I walked out of that movie.
Blaming his brother.
No, that was my brother's fault. And my brother did get into collecting. That was a thing I was really excited about. Is that Derek was always down on He-Man. He thought He-Man was lame and stupid. He did like New Adventures, and then when the 2000X cartoon came out, I showed him the trailer, and he was taken to it. And the toys came out. He was interested in those, and he really liked Cyclone and Triclops in the cartoons. So he was joining me and Nathan as well, and like buying the toys. Like he would go to the stores with me. He would get Triclops. He wanted Cyclone. He wanted a Beastman. He wanted, and he was collecting the Turtles line as well, GI Joe. So it was fun to have my best friend and my brother all searching for the same toy lines at the same time. It was pretty pumped. We're all watching He-Man at the same time, Turtles, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. We're all watching wrestling, so all of us are sharing the same interests at that time. So it was a real fun time to, God, all the money we spent at that time. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, good, man. Because God, we bought a lot. But the search was fun because we when Nathan called me, he told me he'd found Mechanic, and then he told me he got me one too. Because
you didn't have Mechanic at the time. Yeah.
Didn't have Mechanic, so he went to I thought it was Withful Kmart. I thought, but yeah, it probably was the Withful Walmart, and called and say, look, I got Mechanic, and oh yeah, but it was almost as if like he wanted to let me know.
Yeah, I wanted to make you feel really terrible about it at first, and like have you kind of angry about like at me, and it's like, oh well, hey, I got you one too.
Yeah, and he got me one too.
I'm surprised that they even had to. With the way that the case ratios
the case ratios were. Yeah, I don't know how you managed to find two, unless there was just two. They put up two cases of the same ratio, the exact same setup.
Yeah,
they had the same figures. I mean, Cyclone. I remember I ordered that one first because it was a while before he actually showed up. My brother waited, and he eventually got himself a Cyclone. But with the Battle Sound figures, they were all pretty easy to find at first. Beastman was. Tila. Trying to remember. I remember buying her at Walmart, and that at Walmart in Christiansburg. I do remember that. And Evelyn, I think you got me that because I never did see her in stores. Like I think I had a terrible time trying to find Evelyn. Too bad. I remember getting him on my own, and that I was really excited about that. I was
too when I found him. I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like anytime I came across someone new, I was like, "Oh wow!" I missed that feeling of going in the store.
Yeah. And that's what I hate that Mattel felt that the fans are not going to get excited over finding it too bad in the store. It's more about Mega Punch He-Man. We got to get more Mega Punch He-Mans in there, and the Ninja style He-Man. We need more of those in there. And wait a sec here. Oh, throw in that color variant of Skeletor. Get that Orko out of there. They don't want him. I just never understood that mentality. And the executives in the recent documentaries that have been put out about He-Man have said that one of the problems they had was that they were putting out more of the secondary characters and not enough He-Man and Skeletor. And I kind of felt like, well, hell, when I got them, it was 1987. Those are the first figures I bought. Not that I'm saying it's the same for everybody else, but I almost felt like... maybe it was. I wasn't a Mattel. I was 3 years old at the time. Who am I to sit there and judge what their numbers were? But I just never. But by that point, so many toy lines prior to the 2000X line had all gone the variant route. Like all the various Batman toy lines from the animated series to all the movies, it was variants. Ice Armor He-Man, Night Attack He-Man, Laser Power He-Man, all this other nonsense. You
Well,
think of
then came the one with the tapes as well.
oh yeah, when the two that when this and that was a big deal because the battle sound figures came with those VHS tapes, which to me that was the first time I seen Diamond Ray Disappearance with the moral attached to it, but it was missing. That was and I remember I was the first guy. I'm assuming because I didn't see anybody else approach this that I made a post on He-Man.org. To me, it was like my first like important post that hey, there's a scene missing from Diamond Ray Disappearance because I had the episode memorized. I had it on VHS. You know, I knew it backwards and forwards, and it was missing the scene where Orko gets chased out of the palace and when with the Diamond Ray blast, and Skeletor has this nice little send off for that scene with the scene break. And I remember making posts to this turn of He-Man.org, like posting, like, hey, there, if you guys are seeing this, the cop of Diamond Disappearance are missing a particular scene. And then James E. Talk has since then found out what had happened, that it lost in I think the transfers. I think when L'Oreal, the makeup company, purchased the catalog episodes. But that's cool to have like a transfer of those episodes, like Into the Abyss to save Skeletor, the Dragon Invasion. It's so exciting to have those. Now you can find those on eBay. Like people can't give them away of those VHS copies.
Go figure.
But that was yeah. But it was an awesome a lot of those figures. And later waves would come out with the tapes attached to them as well. And I remember buying a lot of the variants because I had the tape attached to it as well. And
man, you're lagging. You're lagging pretty fierce and kind of fuzzy on my end. I think it's like Joe trying to speak to us. He's graying you.
Might be like he's trying to force that VHS quality, you know, like RCA home video recorder.
Even in his absence, he's still here.
He's still with us here. But yeah, it's still, you know, even though I don't display the toy line, I don't, you know, look at the toy itself as something I treasure. But it was a great time when the big 2-up statues were released by the Horsemen to let everyone know what they were going to look like. It was so exciting. Waiting for Whiplash to show up, seeing the announcements of Prince Adam and Cyclone. You know, the vehicles definitely left a lot to be desired, but I bought every one of them. It was a fun time. Can't deny that it was an absolute joy being on the hunt, going to every store we could find from Roanoke, which was an hour away from us, checking out every store down there, coming back home, checking out every store here, looking for He-Man figures, Turtle figures, Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe, you know, movie maniacs.
Yeah, I remember a lot of the times when we would go in the stores, you and I would be walking side by side. Do you remember when we used to like put our hands like in front of each other to kind of just shove the other one out of the way when we get close to the toy aisle? Yeah, because we wanted to get first dibs on things. And then we had our infamous tug of war over Red Skull and Walmart that one time,
which didn't go too hard because I'm like, I could have easily just snatched away from Nathan, but
but then the embarrassment took over. He's like, "Oh, who's gonna see me?" I'm like, "I don't care. This is mine."
Yeah, it was more of I didn't want people to see me like fighting with this guy in the aisle over a toy. I'm like, God, my shame and pride.
But how funny was that? Because
but then I would have felt bad because I'm taking something from something that you clearly wanted to, whereas you wouldn't have felt bad anyway because you clearly didn't because you didn't give me the toy. You know. Yeah. So,
no, it was funny though because the peg space I remember is they were vertically like this, and we're both like flipping through them. You're on one side, I'm on the other. We go through the same one, and our hands grab them at the same time. And of course, all of these other figures are in front of it on the peg, and we're both holding on to it, and we're looking at each other, and I'm just like, I'm not. I saw it first, and it was basically one of those things. And then we started taking off the other figures, and we both pulled it off the peg together. And then we're just both hanging on to it, and then we're sort of just like pulling. That was good stuff.
Yeah. And I still to this day have never gotten a Red Skull, or have really seen one since. I think maybe once. Honestly, I can't remember if I ever saw one again outside the day that Nathan got the Red Skull from Marvel Legends. But we didn't have that kind of fight over the He-Man stuff. The He-Man stuff we did manage to find, like if we both kind of got everything. My brother got everything.
I kind of stayed away from the vehicles just because they were, like you said, they left a lot to be desired. But I was never really big on, other than Turtles and the Batman movie vehicles. I've never had much interest in, like, I have to have all of these. I probably should have got Grayskull, but just
I
didn't.
mean, in comparison, like even when I got it and set it up, it just wasn't as exciting, you know, as the magic of the vintage one. I mean, it just didn't have as much to it. It was big, but I didn't like. I mean, the whole voice chip thing where it recognizes who's at the drawbridge, like, was kind of like, that's kind of cool, but it was just kind of lackluster in general. And it's obviously the Four Horsemen sculpted the, I think they're the ones responsible for doing the Great Classics line, but still, I'm sure some people love it. I just kind of thought it was all right. I was proud to have it, but I didn't get as excited about it as I thought I would have when I got it. I think also plus that I spent the last of my graduation money knowing I was flat broke and didn't have a job. And my only source of income was mowing lawns, and I only had like 3 or 4 lawns I mowed. So that was it. It was
How much were you getting paid when you mowed the lawns? I'm sure it varied, but how much were you making off of those?
15 for one, 12 for another 10 for mowing my own, and then I had a lady across town. I think it was paying me, 20.
Okay.
But it was sporadic. I never got paid like the lawn. Sometimes it was one lady. I was mowing it for her grandparents, so she would pay me like periodically, like every other week or so.
Yeah.
And then a lady who lived up the street from me couldn't pay me at the time, so sometimes I'd have to go and collect a couple weeks later, but I'd still mow her lawn like 2-3 straight weeks and not get paid. So it was nice when I would get like, all right, now I got all this money, I can go buy some toys and rent movies and go buy my comic books and stuff like that. So that's how I got my fix back then, and did all my eBaying and stuff like that as well. And it was fun though, because the only bills I had to pay was putting gas in my car, and that was it. So what money I did got went towards buying action figures, comic books, movies, and movie posters, and
Man, you remember when it only took about $10 to fill up your tank? Man,
God.
Gas was like $1 a gallon. Yeah, man. Real quick too, before we kind of start to move on to the rest of the show, Man at Arms from the 2000X line was the first thing I ever purchased on eBay. So that sensation too, because it wasn't a buy it now thing either. This was like I'm placing
the bids, so waiting
with other people. High speed internet wasn't a thing for me at this time either. So we're talking dial up, and I'm just like, have to refresh, but then you have to wait for it to load, and you're just like, oh man, I hope no one outbids me. And then I won it, and it's just like this super rush of adrenaline of like, yeah, I did it. And it's like, man, let me go to the local grocery store and get my money order so I can fill out all this information and mail it off. God, I'm glad.
Well, that was another exciting point, because go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that it was cool at the time, but now I'm just like, I'm really glad buy it now is at least a little more. It gives you more options, and PayPal is a huge help. But I didn't have a bank account. It's just I had cash in my pocket from graduation, and that's simpler times. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just saying, like, I remember my first eBay purchase was a Men on Card European release Dragon Blaster Skeletor, I think for like $20. And I remember there was a guy who was a He-Man fan too that, like, kind of coaxed me along to help me feel it comfortable enough to sign up on eBay. And I was like, I don't know, man. I might get like charged or for something. I was like, no, it's easy, dude. So I did it, and I purchased. That was my first, and I spent that summer looking for the magazines, getting Rotar, Scareglow, anything else I could find on eBay, and constantly going to the Kroger and buying Western Union money orders.
All right, so I want to say hello to Zen Brown because he has joined us in the chat, but also tuning in, not from home, but from his cousins. Joe Amato is in the chat room, and he wanted me to let you know, not to sound like a nerd, but they are Eagle fight packs, not flight.
Well, thank you for correcting me. I'm not going to take that as an insult because I don't hold those accessory packs in the highest regard anyway. So, yeah. So Joe, thank you for correcting me on that one there, bud.
And thanks for popping in and checking on us and making sure that we haven't completely just derailed it and the show will just cease to exist after this.
I'd like to think that, hey, look, it's 147 episodes in. We're going to have, episodes that maybe some people it's not for everybody's taste, but I feel like, I like this discussion of the 2000X, toy chase. It's fun to reflect because I'm sure as people listen to this, they can probably relate to the, oh, great, I ran into Toys R Us. All they had was a, bunch of Jungle Attack He-Mans. They didn't have any Mermen or something like that. It was an exciting chase, and to see the reveals, on He-Man pop up, like that's how I found out what Cyclone and Prince Adam were going to look like.
Yeah. So Tyler, at any chance that I would either talk to him on the phone or anytime I saw we hung out in person, that was honestly kind of like the first thing you would do. You give me all the updates on everything that was going on, and then it's like, all right, well, let's hop in the car and let's go see what we can find. Hey.
Yeah, that's how we would spend our Saturdays. I mean, we would spend the whole day gone looking for toys from around noon on Saturday and come back Saturday because we would go to Roanoke, which was an hour away, check out every store down there, come back to Christiansburg if we weren't wore out, and go more hunting down there because sometimes we come back empty-handed.
Tyler would be like, "I'm tired. I'm so tired." I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm tired." Even
because Nathan's a night owl. Nathan's having to stay until 4 a.m, even back then, without a job.
Yeah,
and I had to have my sleep, and that was before I started working out. It was just like, oh no, I'm tired. I want to go home, watch cartoons, and go to sleep, fall asleep, unfulfilled, and whatever. But
yeah, we should appreciate that time a little more. Not to say that we didn't, but I think not to its fullest extent. Like talking about it now, thinking about it, I miss that stuff because there's not really a way to do it, and toy selections at most stores now are just there's just nothing.
Well, no, they don't keep anything in stores that unless you're collecting Star Wars, Marvel Legends, wrestling figures, or one of the many infamous Power Ranger toy lines or whatever crummy trendy thing is going on with. It's just not that collector market is just not there in the retail area. Like, yeah, if you're collecting that stuff, yeah, I mean, you can buy Transformers at Walmart and Target and stuff like that, and people are on the hunt, I'm sure, for those. Transformer fans, Star Wars fans, wrestling fans, they're always going to have that. So, unfortunately for them, they've still got it going. But for He-Man fans, it was fun with Turtles when that 2012 Turtles line was out. We were buying those toys. That was fun, going out looking for Slash or whatever.
But it's not. It's not the same.
It's not the same. It doesn't. It
wasn't the same because there wasn't all the different things. We were just going and looking for one thing.
Yeah.
This time period, it was He-Man, Turtles, G.I. Joe. It was everything. It was like a resurgence. Here's all the properties that we were into as kids, but now we kind of have a little more money to play with. And
yeah. And Mom and Dad don't tell us, no, you can only have one, and you get 5 minutes to decide.
No, I'm taking them all.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Tyler and I would just have to tussle for one.
Yeah. Only happened one time, though.
Let the record state, I won that one. Just saying. The figure is mine. It is in my possession. I won that. I don't care how.
One of us had to throw in the towel.
I don't care how. Sand in the eyes, I'll play dirty. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Nathan is like the George Costanza of toy collecting. Like, he doesn't know what I'm talking about, but he will throw me under the bus. He'll sell me short. He'll point the blame at me. Whatever it takes, because there's an episode of Seinfeld where he says, who would win the fight between me and Gorgeous George? Oh, George. George fights dirty. So what would you do? Growing stuff, pull hair, whatever I got to do. Yeah. That's Nathan.
Yeah. That's how I got the Red Skull, man. No, that was all just Tyler's embarrassment. He didn't want that hot chick that saw him hours earlier at the arcade beat one of those games that he's always talking about.
Yeah.
She was so impressed, and then she walked by and saw him
buying a toy.
Buying a
toy. Or fighting for Red Skull. You're fighting for a Nazi leader? Oh my God, what a dork. You know, and I was going to give that guy my phone number for beating the Simpsons arcade game or something like that. I know I had such a warped and easily destroyed mindset back then. The self-esteem was just so easily
That happens.
torn and tattered over such petty nonsense like that.
Well, I mean, middle school and high school has a tendency to do that to people anyway, especially those that were into what we would call "quote nerdy" stuff. And now it's
nerdy as you get.
And now it's super popular. So I
Yeah,
hope.
I almost only feel like it's only popular to wear the stuff, but not expected to actually know anything about what you're wearing. Or, you know, people wear Deadpool shirts. You're like, do you know anything about the character? No, I just like the movies. Hey, how about that Superman? You like Superman? Yeah, I like the movie. Or I like the character. You ever read a book? What's a book? You know? How about the cartoon series? You ever watch the cartoon?
What's a book?
You know?
Yeah,
I feel like it's like with Star Wars too. Like, oh, everyone loves Star Wars. Did you watch which one's your favorite? I like that they're new when they came out. You know, you know, it really does take away the what made it cool, even though it was looked down upon for so long. That if you like this stuff, it was really cool, and it wasn't destroyed with like a bunch of bad merchandise. That like, oh god, it's just
it was kind of like that secret handshake.
Yeah.
If you did come across someone wearing that, you know that they didn't get it at Walmart or Hot Topic. They found it some other way somehow.
They got it at a comic store, or they ordered it, or they made it themselves, or had it customized and made it a print shop or something. Because I remember back in high school, I was wearing it from Gadzooks. They used to sell these old school shirts that had Storm Shadow with the logo old school, a Decepticon logo old school, Panther old school. I remember being scared to death to wear this at school, and that the preppy kids would make fun of me.
Oh,
sure enough,
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember very well your face being all red, and you're just like, right. I'm like, dude, like, who cares? It's fine. It's fine. Like, wear that. Be proud of it.
Yeah. And sure enough, two popular kids started wearing them, and I'm like, God, I was the only one in the school wearing Thundercat, the G.I. Joe, just in Transformers stuff. I'm the first one. No one says anything, and then some of the other people start wearing it too.
Man, I don't even know what the hell I was wearing at the time. Well, was I wearing like those shiny shirts with like the dragons and things on them from Gadzooks?
I know I was wearing the dragon shirts too. Yeah.
What a terrible. All right, just picture for a second Tyler wearing like a button-up short sleeve shirt that. Let's say it's like a blue, like a navy blue, but it's got like black dragons on it, and there's like this print on the back, and and we're wearing Jinko jeans, which those some people might not be familiar with these, but just huge.
People who listen to this podcast about He-Man probably I don't know what Jinko jeans.
I mean, they might, but if they don't, these were just massive jeans. Like you would put them on, and some of them were so wide that they couldn't see your shoes. It's just like jeans straight to the ground. And man, what a weird time. If that's one thing I could go back and change, it would definitely be like my style. For sure. I'd be
I was pretty happy with what I wore back then. I was trying to wear nice shirts as well, but then I would like to wear the Gadzook, but that was the thing before Hot Topic really became popular, was when, because I think the only one I went to was that one in North Carolina with you. And I got the Ghost Rider tank top and the Spider-Man Venom and Carnage Ringer shirt. And, not so long after this when you could find He-Man stuff, Hot Topic on occasion, which was a big deal. But yeah, that was just a product of the time and what we thought was cool. And it wasn't what the popular kids were wearing. It's just kind of what everybody who was, not part of the redneck crowd, the goth kids, the prep kids, or the average Joes, we were just kind of, thrown in the melting pot, so to speak. We didn't really attach ourselves to a specific
we
group.
were sort of just in our own little space outside of all those other bubbles.
Yeah. So I'm content with it. I just wish I would have handled myself better in high school. Started lifting weights back then. Probably wouldn't be so.
Give me just. Oh, okay. Sorry. I was hearing this noise. It sounded like a coughing, like I thought maybe I texted Emily. I'm like, everything okay? Because it sounded like someone was choking. She's like, oh, that's Jasper. I have no idea what our dog is doing in there, but just freaked me out for a second. So if Tyler, because Tyler kind of looked down in the corner for a second, I was just kind of like,
no, I didn't hear anything. I was
okay.
it's just when I'm talking.
Oh yeah, well you couldn't hear it. I was just like kind of paranoid for a second. Well, we do have. So far, I'm sure some other people will chime in with some stuff, but earlier on we had 2 questions.
Okay.
One is a non-He-Man question, and the other one is, and then I'll kind of scroll down and see if anything new has popped up. But I already know your answer to this one. It's the non-He-Man question. Did you guys, and you probably don't even know what this is at all. Did you guys catch All In last weekend? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what All In is.
All right. So All In was kind of a gamble, and I'm going to throw some names at you. You're probably like, I don't know who. You'll know who this is. Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
When he left WWE.
Was that pay-per-view where he won the title?
Yes.
Or their title?
Where he won the NWA title? Yes.
Yeah.
So basically what it was he got together with the Young Bucks because they're all together in the Bullet Club. And they decided that they were going to put on basically an independent wrestling show, but they were going to do it at the Sears Center in Chicago. And the goal was and that's a 10,000 seat arena. They sold it out in 30 minutes. And it looked like a really good show because I didn't watch it. I plan to. I watch Being the Elite, which is a show that the Young Bucks do on YouTube. It's sort of, they have their own little storyline things and just sort of like tipping their hat to stuff. But it's also kind of behind the scenes look of their travel and things of that nature. But people seem to enjoy it. I know there's some people are like, I don't get it because they didn't watch all the Being the Elite that led up to the show. But it's cool. Pro wrestling is in this weird space where it's not like, yeah, WWE is the biggest game in town, but there's also all these other really cool things happening that are sort of taking the fan that, hey, you know what, you're tired of WWE, it's kind of not for you. Oh, hey, check out all this stuff. So it's nice, like the alternative is there, and it's starting to get louder. That I think it's going to reach a point where Vince is going to notice something's going to happen, and maybe it'll light a fire under him to kind of change the product. But that was the question. I knew that you would be like, who? What? So that's basically what that was.
I'm sorry I couldn't give you any more than that, bud.
Yeah, that question was from JSP. And Fedmon asked, which Motu character do you think would be great to get a beer with? Tyler, you're not a drinker. But
not
if
a drinker,
you,
but I would gladly go to I'd gladly go to a bar with God, man, be a lot of awesome characters. You know, I go to a bar so I can pick up a date with Frosta. You know, but in terms of like going and hanging out, like hang with the guys. Probably. I'm gonna say Lizard Man.
Lizard Man? Okay, sorry, I'm like looking through
I'm just like drawing crickets here. I expected a reaction from you or something like that.
No. I'm trying to read the chat at the same time too, just to see what all I had missed. Yeah, no, Lizard Man would be a good one. My choice, man. I'm gonna go with Ram Man.
That's a good one. Ram Man's a good one. Yeah,
he looks like a guy that would probably drink everybody else under the table, and he seems like a guy that I'd want to hang out with.
I'd say Fisto and Ram Man would probably be like the two guys that would probably have like a drinking contest, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark where you got Karen Allen having that drinking contest. Like you'd have Ram Man and Fisto with all the other heroic warriors like Mechanic, Buzz-Off, Clamp Champ, Lizard Man, Cycle. They're all laughing and carrying on, waiting to see who's going to fall over first. Fisto and Ram Man, that would be in the drinking contest. Fisto would be another cool one, I think, to have a drink with. He looks like someone who would, had like a big, massive beer mug in in his big right hand, and tell you about that one time he beat the hell out of Jitsu and took his hand away or something like that.
Yeah,
So
JSP, you guys are kind of on the same wavelength because as you're saying that, and there is that delay, he was like Fisto, Ram Man. So I think we're all kind of on the same page with that. I
cool.
would like to,
That's
like to
awesome.
go drinking with those guys because
That's a fun question.
yeah, out of the group here between because Joe is also not a drinker, correct? As far as I know.
So.
All right,
Yeah, I don't think so.
out of the three of us, I will be the drinker. Tyler, you go off and try to get the ladies. I'll be throwing them down with Ram Man. Hopefully, not starting a fight or breaking anything.
Yeah, I'll be on the corner like picking up something hot with Frosted and Castella and Lady Valdira, and the list just goes on and on and on of like He-Man women that I'd be like, all right, she's going home with me tonight. I'm going home with the Ice Princess tonight, guys. Her glimmer and her purple hair, man. Yeah, that's what I'd be kind of focus on. I'm and open to talk to him.
And I guess before we jump to the commentary, I'm going to go ahead and throw this to you as well because Joe threw this out to the chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about the She-Ra trailer drop?
Tomorrow? 0. I'm not excited at all for it. I just it's gonna have to be something. I'm not excited at all for it. I mean, I'll watch it when it pops up just because I'm sure so many outlets on social media will be sharing it. People will be like, "Oh, I know it," and I'm like, "Yeah, me too." But
I'm gonna go with.
Go ahead. I'm wrong.
I'm gonna go with a 5 because mine's a 0 because I have no interest in it, but 5 just because if it makes you mad, I want to see that reaction. I'm gonna go with a 5.
You don't have to look too hard or listen too much on this podcast. Like I'm pissed off.
I know.
So no, I mean, I hope, I really do, that when it's dropped, I'm like, okay, I stand corrected. Like I was wrong. This looks intriguing. But if it's more of the pouty bubblegum teeny bop anime nonsense crap, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? I don't care if it is on Netflix. I ain't watching it. I'm not doing it. So, but I'm sure it'll be a firestorm of activity tomorrow when it comes to that. So, but as we jump into our commentary, I got a fun little bit of news to share regarding this episode. Thanks to our wonderful and very talented Danielle, Penny Dreadful. By the way, Danielle, when you listen to this, I had 2 people who listen to the podcast say you look like dynamite on the podcast. So they were complimenting your look. So I'm dropping this to her on the podcast, so that way when she hears this, she'll know that some listeners like, she looked pretty good, man. So I want to really emphasize this to her that we probably need some more TNA on the podcast. We'll get more listeners if we have boobs on here too. I just want to stress that. So, but yes, thanks to Danielle, she set me up with the contact of Robbie London, who wrote Diamond of Disappearance, helped set up the series, with one of the biggest contributors to the He-Man cartoon as well, especially for season 1, because that's the one season he worked prominently on, and wrote Driel's Return, Dawn of Dragoon, Double-Edged Sword, and drawing a blank here, but those episodes, and he's agreed to come on the podcast. He came out to PowerCon, as you heard last week, and it was not of the rabid fan base that He-Man has, and I was able to contact him, and he is interested in coming on the podcast to talk about his work at Filmation, working on the episodes, and just a whole plethora of stuff to ask this guy. I mean, this guy is right up there with Lou Scheimer in terms of importance when it comes to He-Man, the cartoon series. So I'm very, very excited to talk to someone who is responsible for episodes that have meant a great deal to me, especially this episode, which is the first episode I ever saw. I just wanted to drop it to our listeners. I don't know when it'll come on, but hopefully it'll be within the next month or so. And it should be an absolute field, because it wants to answer questions from fans as well. So if that's something that interests you, we'll let people know in advance when Robbie has agreed to come on, and get listeners in the chat room, and we'll divulge as many questions as we can to the very, very kind and humble gentleman this guy is here. So I'm just want to pass that on. As it's not official yet because we don't always coming on, but he has agreed to come on. So it's tremendous.
And that's all. I mean,
guys.
You guys are pretty much reaching like a who's who in this property. Like, I'm sitting there watching Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man, the Masters of the Universe. And man, like these guys kept popping on. I was like, yeah, he's been on the show, and he's been on the show. Wow, like Joe and Tyler have talked to a lot of people that have either worked on it in the past or are currently figuring all this out now. And I'm just like, man, that's why you are the associate producer.
Yeah, that's of the documentary. Yes, that I am. Yeah, it is really cool to know that, so many people that were in that have come on the podcast a couple times, and I wanted to let Robbie know too, like, hey, like, not just occasionally, like we've had some people want to come back and let us know what a great time they had. And he seems very adamant. He was very happy with the kind of reaction that He-Man is still getting to this day. And seems very gracious to come on and answer questions and talk about his time at Filmation. And, we'll pick his brain about this episode, Dawn of the Dragoon, Driel's return, double-edged sword, and just talk about the mythology of Tralla, because he's the guy that established Tralla. He gave us Dragoon. It's a lot of important stuff. The Ray of Disappearance, this whole episode that introduces everybody to the world of He-Man. Like, this is his doing. So he will come on the podcast and join us as well. So I'm very, very excited about that kind of news. I'm like, God, it was. I just didn't expect it to happen.
I mean, that's awesome. You get. I know it means way more to you too, not only as a get for the podcast, but just for yourself to be able to ask them anything that you've always wanted to ask them. That's really neat.
Yeah, it's words can't describe the level of excitement. Like, just getting an email from Robbie London, I'm like, it just it's mesmerizing. And to converse, it's like, dude, just to converse with you, dude, is an honor enough. But to actually have him come on the podcast and talk about the stuff, it's going to be a big deal, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun
for the listeners as well. So,
well, I mean,
some of the
guys in the chat are already like, count me in. So
awesome. Well, yeah, and we will let you know like a week in advance when he's coming on, and have questions prepared. And when you're listening to this, well, we'll try we may even take questions from fans as well. If you can't make it, we like to make it fair for everybody. But if you can show up in the chat room, we'll definitely get your questions asked and answered.
And before Tyler gives us the countdown on this, link is down below, so you can follow along. This is the link that Tyler gave me, so if there's something wrong with it and it messes up, we'll just blame him for it.
Well, I only said this one because I think the official He-Man YouTube channel has ads, and if people are watching this with us live, or watching this without ads,
they don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to have to keep stopping us. And gotcha.
Yeah, I say go to the official He-Man YouTube channel, because that's what James and Deucin has worked on. That's what I would want you to use anyway. But we're using this other link. I'm using a iTunes purchase to watch. So I'll count down from 3, 2, 1, play. Bing. But this episode, I hope Joe's not mad that I didn't on here for this one.
Yeah, you probably should have let him know before we started to do this. Or, at some point down the road, you guys can just redo it.
Well, that's what's so good about He-Man, is that there's always room to do further discussions. But I picked this one before I got in touch with Robbie, because with Nathan being, above a casual fan, it's an episode that, was meant to introduce, new viewers to the world of He-Man. And I just kind of felt like, how does this work towards Nathan? I feel like I thought this would be a great way of a great commentary to have on here. Plus, it's one of the best episodes that's ever been done, period. It still resonates to me as one of the top episodes that's ever been made. It's what kept me going back to the video store, was this episode on the Greatest Adventures of All tape. It's one of the most perfect episodes of the series. And because it got everything right.
We talked through the entire intro there. Is there any history, any vivid memories first time you saw that intro, anything like that coming to mind?
It was slightly altered because the Greatest Adventures of All has a slightly different alteration to the intro. But it was like, yeah, it was magic to see the faces of the evil warriors come flashing at you. And all this is we're watching right now. Hearing Beastman's constant growling and Skeletor's initial cackle here, all of this is like taking me back to being 3 years old and just being mesmerized by the visuals, the sense of just how evil these guys are. And this is Beastman. This is quintessential Beastman, like loyal henchman, but very savage in his portrayal here. And getting ready to see what has been one of my most favorite segments or sequences of the entire series is the
Sort of
the evil.
Yeah, the call to arms.
The call to arms, which, yes, that's a great. Seeing this device here, which was featured in another episode, I forget it. I'm drawing a blank at which one it was featured in, but I would get so excited of seeing the beams flash out of Snake Mountain and then going across the universe here and going to each individual evil warrior and seeing them in action. Like, this was so exciting to watch Merman fighting this giant fish, and the music that plays, through each scene. Every scene has got slightly different music.
Yeah.
I mean, just epic. You don't know what they're doing they're doing something, but it almost feels like they're on their own little adventures in each little segment here. Like Evelyn causing a nasty storm. And my favorite, Triclops. Man, he's so badass. Oh, God, I used to get so excited watching this. Like, it just was just hammering home just how strong Triclops was. And that's what made him my favorite, is that he was the strongest to me of the group.
And here we are with my personal favorite.
Yeah. Wizard of Weapons Trapjaw. I mean, all this. It was just so exciting to see the arm attachments in action and Skeletor's narration as he's talking about why he needs them. Like, it was just perfect. I mean, I want to thank Robbie for all of this here. And then seeing them all show up at the council table, like, that's just a great image. And I love Oppenheimer's Skeletor in this episode. There's certain episodes that sounds more menacing than others, and this one is just like Oscar worthy.
So
go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you this because they have a production order and then there's like another order, and I've seen kind of two different things here. Like, supposedly in production order, this is the 4th episode, but technically people look at this as the first.
Yeah, the Cosmic Comic was the first one produced, actually, or the first one that went into production. But yeah, this episode is used as the first episode, but not the first episode produced.
Okay.
So, yeah. I remember when I found that out too. I'm like, what? Really? Yeah, because I'm never a fan of Cosmic Comet at all. It has some good moments, but it's just not one I ever go back to revisit. But I did like this sequence as we're watching this poor little creature, or not really die, but gets into another dimension. But it was interesting to see the Evil Warriors kind of challenging Skeletor's latest scheme, as if like, and that's something we would not see again, really. That they're all summoned to do his bidding, but they all look at him and like, look, we've heard this before, Skeletor. What could you possibly come up this time that's going to stop He-Man? Like, it was good to see them have a set of balls on them and challenging Skeletor's, plan. And yet he doesn't, attempt to reprimand them for it. He just like, all right, I'll show you. And this is just a fun sequence of, I always enjoy this too with the old eggs. All this makes me think about being when I was 3 and 4 years old and renting this from Beyond Video and watching all of this take place, and just couldn't get enough of this world.
How is Orko kind of viewed overall in the community, would you say? Do some find him kind of annoying, or is he sort of generally well-liked?
I think both. I think most people, which oddly enough, when you hear like there's traditional gripes and complaints about the movie, where's Orko at? But when I was growing up in the early days of the internet, I'd hear a lot of slams toward Orko, as if like, or you'd see more on articles about the worst sidekicks of 80s cartoons, and they throw Orko in there or something like that. And I just feel like I don't know what people see is so wrong with this character. Because clearly they didn't watch the cartoon or they didn't watch all the episodes, because season 1 makes most everybody it gives everybody some of the most strongest portrayals. From Adam to Skeletor to He-Man, Orko, Man-at-Arms, they're all given a lot of great stuff in season 1, and as we all know, the tone changes a bit in season 2. But I've always loved Orko. I thought he was a wonderful character, a character as a kid I would love to hang out with. I think it's just all due to the writers. If the writers want to write him as kind of annoying, you're going to get an annoying Orko, and of course, I'd always get super pumped for this first transformation sequence here.
I always enjoyed that Cringer was just so kind of unsure and afraid of a lot of things, and then he, gets turned into Battle Cat, and he's just ready to go. I like that concept.
It used to confuse me a bit as a kid because, obviously when he's Battle Cat, he's not afraid of anything. But just the sheer mention of Battle Cat would even scare Cringer. So it just shows you just like, well, if you wouldn't be scared if you're Battle Cat, why are you scared to become Battle? It's just to confuse me a lot as a kid. But I love John Norman's delivery in this episode. Let's give Tila a hand. I
really like too. I like the music that's playing right here.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. This one, it's one of my favorite pieces. It's James uploaded on the He-Man YouTube, or Deucin did. One of the guys did, and I just love this chase music. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's not played much.
For once,
it's just this episode.
I finally really noticed the music in a scene and enjoy it. Usually, you're the one that's like, "Oh," and then this kicked in. I was like, "I don't really remember that."
And I love Skeletor's axe with the glass, or the oh god, I'm drawing a blank on the kind of the name of the glass would be, looking glass, whatever you want to call it. But I just like this imagery here of them outside the palace, borders, with the robot knights getting ready to attack, and seeing firsthand like this whole scene devoted to the Trapjaw, because he's not given anything else to do in the rest of the episode.
So which is kind of a bummer for me as someone that really enjoys Trapjaw.
Well, Robbie London would use him again and Double-Edged Sword and make him strong as He-Man for a temporary time in that episode. Great episode. You got to go check that out at some point. But it makes sense because, later on, the rest of the Evil Warriors are going to get a little screen time to tangle with He-Man. So, but Trapjaw gets probably one of the most prominent fights with He-Man in this episode. And that's due to Robbie's writing, obviously. And it's great. And it's just another good moment there. And Tila enjoying Trapjaw's mishap.
See, I wish that I had better memories of watching the cartoon as a kid, because I know I definitely did, but not how you remember how you do.
Well, plus, I rented this particular VHS tape religiously, and I don't say that loosely. I mean religiously. If it was the one that I used to rent the most at Beyond Video, because certain video stores carried certain He-Man tapes, and that video store carried this one, and I'd rented it the most of all of them. And and mainly because of this episode, and it came with 2 other episodes, Teal's Quest and Colossus Awakes, but I got it mainly because of this one, and the wraparound sequences with the sorceress, and because it was just exciting. Everything in this episode, the action was great. The Evil Warriors were frightening to me, not in a Freddy Krueger sense, but you felt intimidated by them. As we're getting ready to come up here, this I found to be a bit tense as a child, because the music is kind of like this kind of I don't know how you describe this music here. Them talking in secret, knowing something wrong, and that it's not jokes right now. We're like, this is some serious stuff we're dealing with right now.
And he's already there. That's like a cool shot too. It's just like,
that shot of all of them together with the robot knights, I just found to be very, very intimidating as a kid. God.
I want to say real quick too, while you were renting those tapes, I was renting those G.I. Joe tapes, like those big box tapes.
Oh yes, yeah. And
I was renting those all the time.
Some of those too. And I tend to watch more G.I. Joe on TV than anything. I didn't rent them as much till I got a little bit older. But He-Man, Thundercats, She-Ra, Those are the cartoons I rented the most. Everything else I watched on TV: GI Joe, Transformers, Bionic Six, Brave Star, Silverhawks. But yeah, the video store was always about He-Man for the most part. That was the one thing I would always look for as a kid, no matter what video store we went into. I'd always want to see if they have any He-Man tapes. Even when my dad was working up in Herndon, Virginia, and there was a Blockbuster there, I went in there and looked for He-Man tapes. Sure enough, they had the Greatest Adventures of All tape there too. So I remember making sure I rented that. In Pennsylvania, when we went to visit my granddad, we went to a local mom and pop video store. I rented the Greatest Adventures of All there too. So it was always about He-Man. Any video store I went to, I had to see that RCA box on display with one of the various He-Man covers.
Do you know how many of those tapes were released?
I think close to 20, I think.
How many do you
close
own?
to that. I'm missing a few. Not many, but I'd say probably I'm missing 5, I think. Some of them are really hard to find. Like one of my favorite tapes I've only seen on eBay a couple, like at less than a handful of times in life. It's so hard to find. And then some people are charging a ridiculous amount for some of the tapes. I'm like, dude, I'm not giving you that much for that tape. If it was Betrayal of Stratos, okay, maybe, just because I have to have that tape. But yeah, I'm still missing a few, and I hope to complete that collection someday. Now, I remember this right here, and James Etok clarified it, because as a kid, I used to think, what is that noise? Like, it sounds like someone talking, and sure enough, it is. There was a bit of dialogue that was cut during the scene of He-Man saying, we'll use the window of knowledge, I believe. For some reason, it was cut, but it's still kind of lingers in the audio a little bit. And I remember he clarified that. I'm like, great, because as a kid, I used to wonder, what is that noise? And I don't know if you caught it when you listened to it earlier, but
no, I did actually. I'm like, well, that does seem very strange. It's kind of It's like, how did that manage to just stick in there and no one sort of really noticed? You know what? Maybe we should cut that out.
Hell if I know, because I mean, a lot of errors happen in animation, and who's to say, there can't be vocal issues here. But I love this. Skeletor will attack Castle Grayskull. Let's put out a welcome. Oh, this is my favorite shot.
Where all of them are walking together, and
it's a really the music. Cool. God, it just whoever owns that cell of animation. Oh, I envy you so much. And this panning shot of all of them, you got the 3 up front, 3 more in the back, the hover robots in the very back.
That honestly kind of looked like an isometric view of like a Super Nintendo game to me. When I saw that, I'm thinking like any of those RPGs really set in a certain way. I was like, yeah, that was also really awesome shot.
And all of them using just their physical strength to pull the jobbers down because they're that strong. Like I just like the idea that they're just using physical strength. It was a great way of me as a child just showing how impressionable these portrayals were for me. Like these guys were super, super strong. And that's what one of the biggest appeals about me, or to me, about He-Man was just the strength of all the characters, because it was always about wanting to be strong. Yes! Next time you might try knocking first. God, I love that line. He's just so defiant. And Skeletor, Panther, Beastman, they're all pissed off. Just so alpha. This is as alpha as it gets here, people. Right, Danielle? It's always about being alpha. It's a great way. Like a lot of characters are thrown in here at the tail end here, just with a little bit of screen time, and it's a lot to do to try and cram in a lot of character in a 22 minute episode, but it's done so well that you're sold on everything. I mean, it was for me. I was sold on everything I saw in this episode. I wanted everybody.
I mean, that makes sense because, with Stratos and Ram Man, if you haven't watched the show as a kid, you're just getting into it. You see them show up, you hear their names, you're like, oh, wow, now I know who to look for in the toy store.
Yeah.
That had to have been a really cool feeling, too.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't know exactly how all that lined up in regards to introducing a new character and the toy sort of coming out and coinciding with that as well. Obviously, you know a little more about that. Was that kind of the case?
Um, I mean, it was kind of back and forth.
Yeah, because you have the waves all memorized.
Well, a lot of that, and this is my favorite fight. As brief as it was, like was my favorite fight as a kid was watching He-Man knock the hell out of Triclops and seeing Triclops like actually making He-Man struggle to break his grip. That's what made Triclops my favorite Evil War was that brief fight sequence. But yeah, with the toy line, like it was, I would see characters in the cartoon like Beastman and Triclops and Trapjaw, but I saw Beastman once in the store, and you look on the back of the cards, and you'd see the figures that were available, the back of the mini comics, so you knew they were out there. But when I was searching for the figures, not everybody was available at the time. Plus, when you're 3 and 4 years old,
right,
you don't have that kind of look or the sense to look a little harder and deeper. You're just kind of what you see initially,
right.
So I may have missed out on certain ones and just didn't see it at the time. But I'm sure Joe was definitely, and a lot of the people who watched the show at the same time, and you see these characters, now you need to go out and look for this guy, look for that guy. But it was super exciting when someone that you knew was a toy you hadn't seen in the cartoon does show up in the cartoon. Because the 84 wave, they showed up in the first run of the 85 line, I believe. 83, 84.
This is a really cool part too, where he's got to break. He's got to break it, but he's also fading.
Yeah, he's losing to the Diamond Ray, which just shows you just what a feat this is for him to no, He-Man is gone. Lost, and to know that he's wound up in another dimension, and by breaking brings him back. But it's such great imagery and great storytelling of showcasing just how strong the hero of this show is going to be. Like starting the show off, like this is setting up what this series is going to be about: the war of good and evil, what he's got to do, the odds he's got to overcome, and saves the day. And it's not like Skeletor's getting his ass kicked. He just realizes, look, I've lost, and standing there so defiantly, like just awesome. And you hear the wolf howl in the background as he fades away. Like that's an 80s villain. So people who want to make fun of it, I got a bone to pick with all of you. No,
I like this part here at the end too, where he wrecks it just comes through the wall.
Yeah.
And all they can do is laugh about it.
Yeah, because why not? And that's what I'm saying. When you watch this episode, like, what is so lame about Orko? What's lame about Prince Adam? What's lame about this show? Like, I defy any man or woman that watches this cartoon and says it's stupid. Show them this episode. Like, okay, please point out what doesn't hold up, what's silly, what's hokey, what's lame, what's campy. I mean, they got nothing. There's too much hearsay, too much just lazy word of mouth about these what should be highly treasured 80s cartoons. This one most of all.
I like how Cringer was sitting there in the back, like doing the dog thing, like just really like, oh no, I can't believe I did this. Honestly too, I like the little bit here at the end because they always had these. What did you call them? What was
the morals? And this wasn't attached to the Greatest Adventures of all. There were no morals attached to those 3 episodes. So it wasn't until the 2000X line when this was on VHS, I actually got to see this for the first time. So this was a big deal too.
Gotcha.
And for the most part, most of the morals were weaved in part of the story. Like they weren't talking down to kids about it. It felt like, some of them were a little forced, but for the most part, a lot of them were like really well done messages that felt like anybody could, appreciate that. It didn't feel like, okay, kids, remember to brush your teeth and wipe your butt properly. You don't want skid marks in your underwear or something like that. It made sense. Like, double-edged sword, which Robbie Leonard did that one about violence and that people do get hurt in real fights. When wars take place, people do get killed. Like it's some good, and plus John Irwin's delivery, a lot of these lessons makes it a lot more emotionally impactful, so to speak. But if not for great writers who wrote good morals at the end of these as well, and the voices of the voice actors themselves, it would come off as impactful as it did. But just shows you the care that they had at Filmation and why this show is still highly celebrated by all of us. So, thoughts, Nathan?
I mean, it's good. Why would I have any problem with it? I've
You're
never
damn right
had.
you wouldn't.
I've never had any problem with He-Man. I hate that they have sort of manipulated and taken advantage of certain cells and some of the gags that people do. That commercial that was released where him and Skeletor are dancing together and stuff like.
Ugh.
And then the I can't remember what song it was, but they made the figure of Prince Adam and the laughing and everything. Like,
yeah, based on those literally lame ass YouTube videos, like it's tiresome to see He-Man become just a big parody and a joke of like this. What's was like a tough guy, macho man role model is now just seen as like this feminine joke. To people because they feel like, oh, this is kind of silly looking. Let me make fun of it, make a video of it, and put it on video for YouTube for 10 hours or something like that. So now it's. But I'm glad that there are others out there that are in high support of seeing He-Man as the quintessential ass kicker, tough guy, good guy. That takes on some of the best villains that's ever been created, and that's the way it should be. So
no, I mean, I don't know. It's like you put me on the spot of like, oh well, what do you expect of me? I guess like you thought I was going to say something negative.
Yes, man. Just be my yes man. Yes. I could not be the Briscoe to my Vince McMahon. That's what I want you to be.
I was going to go with Johnny Ace, but okay.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can be the Johnny Ace to my Vince McMahon. Like, geez, Tyler, your arms are looking really big.
Oh, that's actually a really good Johnny Ace, man.
Well, I'm just doing Bruce Pritchard's impression of Johnny Ace talking about Vince McMahon's
that's
arms.
pretty good because he does good impressions. That's not bad. I couldn't do it. I can't reach that raspiness.
I've never practiced that. I just did it. It was just.
That was good.
Thank you. Maybe I could bring Johnny Ace on the podcast a little bit more often.
Ugh. Yeah.
Hey, Joe, I really like your customs there. You ever did a customized Smurfs He-Man character before?
See, that one kind of almost teeters on like Steve Austin in a way.
Yeah.
Almost.
You're like,
it's weird.
Oh, damn, kid. Just.
Good stuff.
Yeah, well, good stuff. Yeah.
Well, how'd you want to wrap this up?
I guess I want to thank everybody for tuning into this podcast, whether it's live or a couple days from now through Podbean, through iTunes. Just whenever you're listening to this, all episodes are aired on 9:00 typically. We're doing 8. We did earlier this week.
We did it earlier, yeah. So Tyler could tuck into bed.
Bed. Nathan's got a new game he wants to try out and be able to have plenty of time to play that. And we'll be back to our regular 9:00 schedule next Sunday when the Rotten Amato Joe Amato returns, makes his triumphant return to the podcast, and
I can go back behind the curtain. I want to say hi to Grim 2. I don't know if I said hello to him. And Who Dat Well, he just joined us. He said he's sorry he's late, but you can always go back and check out all the other nonsense that happened before this.
Yeah, just hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Don't make Nathan feel too bad about filling Joe's there.
Yeah, take it easy on me.
Yeah, I think Nathan did a good job tonight. So
he's saying that now, and then when we turn it off, he's gonna let me have it.
No, it's like no, I'm quite satisfied. Like I'm very happy with how tonight went. Like I got no secrets. All right, Nathan, next time try to avoid doing this. Like no, I don't have anything like that. No, I don't know. Everything went really really well. So I'll just kind of do the recommendations and stuff. Check out Kevin Sharp's artwork on Facebook. Check out Axel Jimenez's artwork, Joe Amato's Customs.
Links down below. I've been putting all that stuff down below there. All the stuff you mentioned. Yeah, Axel, that's Kevin. I need to put the links for Joe's Customs and his T-shirts. I forgot to put those down there, but they will be down there.
Cool. Yeah. So check out all that stuff. Go to He-Man.org. Go to He-Man World, John Atkins' website. Let's see. Check out Beyond Retro Podcast. If you like what me and Nathan and Joe all have to say about He-Man, we talk movies, classic video games, cartoons, and stuff like that every Sunday as well. We do commentaries for classic 80s and 90s cartoons on Capes and Commentary. So if you like Rambo cartoons, G.I. Joe, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man, we cover all that stuff. And we're going to do probably G.I. Joe or Thundercats next week as well. So Cartoon Fix of just hearing guys talk cartoons. Check that out as well. Let's see if there's anything else to recommend. If you want us on the go to Podbean, search for Fans of Power Podcast. Go to iTunes and search for Pop Culture Network. You can find all 3 podcasts available to download for free on iTunes. Go to YouTube under the Fans of Power YouTube channel, and also Doug Turner's YouTube channel. We've got 2 different channels of all the episodes. So all the episodes to a certain point are all available on YouTube. The even further back, all those are on Podbean, maybe on iTunes, I'd assume. So not all of them are visual. All of them are audio. So if you want to go further back into the back catalog, you'll have to dig deeper onto Podbean for some of those.
I was just going to stress too, if you're new and have stumbled across this, make sure you hit subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified. And join all these wonderful people in the chat. I will also say this. Delvis popped in, Delvis78, and who that will, because you're always one. Oh, well, I want some feedback. He was like, by the way, love the last episode. Almost got him. Great podcast. So there you go.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Love to hear that. That's awesome to hear that the people like Capes and Commentary.
And Fedmon says that I should jump in the chat a little more in the future, but also the show as well. So thank you for.
Well, look at that. You got some positive feedback before we even finish the show there. So
there we go.
That's a positive sign as well. Next week, I have no idea what we'll talk about. We'll get with Joe about that. What we'll do next week. And we don't know what we're going to do for Beyond Retro, or we'll just kind of play it all by ear. But
yeah, it's all going to be a mystery.
Yeah, all mystery. I think that's really about it. I was trying to think if there's anything else to plug or remind people about.
You want me to let them know? Put a link down there for the new Facebook page that you've created, your Chris Pratt fan page?
No, I trashed that immediately. I was like, it was a bad idea to begin with.
Yeah.
But check out the Fans of Power Facebook page, the Beyond Retro Facebook page. We post all the episodes on those as well. Guess that's really about it. I feel like I'm just kind of like, you know what? I don't need to act like there's more to it, because there isn't anything more to it. It's the ending's pretty simplistic there. So thank you all for taking time to listen to us, whether it's on YouTube or audio, because we don't have this podcast without people listening to it. So every man and woman and children that do listen to us at times, we want to thank everybody for taking time to hear what we have to say about He-Man and the Master of the Universe. So, Nathan?
Oh, yeah. I would go into the whole thing of just also, again, thanks everyone in the chat that joined us on a little bit of a different time. I saw an X says at 9 o'clock, like we talked about, because they're like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. It's that time. Oh, wait. Well, they're already into it. But anyway, thanks for you guys for not only that, but sticking around since Joe's not here and having to deal with me for, almost 2 hours. This is another long one.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again to everyone. And until next time, have a powerful day.
Always been said, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
I feel like he threw me a bone on this one because he didn't want to make me look dumb in front of everybody, but that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Who says it, though?
Michelangelo.
All right. Who's to say it to?
See, man. I want to say Donatello, but I feel like I might be wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
It's Leonardo? Damn.
No.
What?
He's talking about late pizza. Who would Michelangelo be saying that to?
Oh, he's saying it to the pizza guy?
Yes. Who's the pizza guy?
See, I knew it. You know what? I should have realized that it wasn't going to be that simple. I'm like, all right, yeah, I got the quote. We're done.
Well, no, I would have ended it, but the fact that you're like, oh, he threw me a bone, I'm like, okay. I wouldn't throw you a bone. It's the first quote that came to my head, so I decided to dig a little deeper. It's the guy who plays Michelangelo in the suit.
Yeah, that sounds
It's
about
playing the
right.
Domino's delivery guy. So
See,
yes,
I'm just thinking about the scene where they're there in the sewer and they're talking, and I'm thinking about it from that aspect.
well,
You
yeah,
got
because
me.
your mindset of like pizza dude's got 30 seconds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Mikey. And Mikey's just finishing his popsicle stuck on the stick, disregarding the idea of Splinter being gone someday, just worried about time's up, $3 off.
Well, Donatello is the one that's down there with him, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. At least I had that part of it sort of right.
Thought you're a true fan.
Mm.
That's another gimmick me and Nathan had between each other. If we put something back we plan to buy, like, thought you're a true fan, Nathan. Thought you're a true fan, Tyler. That's our way of just busting balls when we choose not to buy something we intended to buy. So we say we're not a true fan.
On that note, I won't see you guys next week. You might hear my disembodied voice, but Tyler will see you guys next week on the show.
Yeah.
And Joe will return. But until then, take care, guys.
Later.